Hey YouTube, today I am fasting and I kind of want to just make a video to encourage you to think about fasting if you're not already and just kind of share with you how I go through it as a Christian, how I kind of plan out my fast and what exactly I fast from. So, first of all, this is probably going to be the only video I make where I am actually fasting in it because it's kind of looked down upon to kind of show the world that you're fasting, and same thing with your praying sometimes. Meant to be a personal relationship aspect with God. But the reason why I am fasting today, because I did not want to make a video on fasting without doing it myself. So you'll just have to believe me that I actually am fasting today because, yeah. But anyways, so the verse on fasting, or the passage on fasting, is in Matthew 6:16 to 18. And it says, "And when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, that their fasting may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who is in secret will reward you." So yeah, it's meant to be um, kind of a secret thing. So, um, so I kind of just want to talk about why fast in the first place. And first, I'm just going to say that, like, even though it's not commanded for Christians to fast per se, it is expected. If you notice in verse 16, I'm sorry, verse 17, it says, Jesus is saying, but when you fast, not if you fast, when you fast. So, um, Jesus expects us to fast. Um, so that's something to keep in mind. And that's something that I had to figure out for a while because I feel like fasting is kind of neglected in Christian circles. And I didn't even think about it for like the first year of becoming a Christian. But um yeah, that's essentially, it is expected of us. And the benefit of fasting is, the idea is that it helps intensify prayer and draws us closer to God and helps us to realize our utter need for God. That's an intention. And I also want to talk about, like, what is fasting. And fasting is the temporary abstinence of a habit or substance, um, for the sake of drawing close to God, to just being closer to God, having a personal relationship, once again, depending on Him more. And so I have found it to be very, very beneficial that way. And um, when I have been fasting, I have, whatever it's from, I fast from food and a lot of times electronics, just because I think it's kind of harmful. Um, and I have learned both times that when you fast, it breaks a cycle in your mind where you think you need it, and you're realizing that it's like you have this realization, like, oh, I'm still alive, and even though I thought I needed this thing, it turns out I don't. And then it's really interesting. It really opens my eyes. And I think it's just really cool. Um, and then also, I do want to make the point that, like, fasting isn't just from food, even though that's the most common example. You can fast from other things that are potentially harmful in your life, or maybe just a bad habit, or even not necessarily a bad habit. Um, it can be anything. Um, it's just to separate from the world and be fully committed to our dependency on God. That's essentially what it is. And so I just want to share with you how I personally plan my fasting. I try to fast. My most general rule is that I typically fast once a month, usually on mid-month around on the 15th is usually when I like to do it. And that is when I try to fast the whole day from food. That's when I try to do a food fast. And then, but I also plan it out where, and this is just kind of how I came up with it, but I look at a calendar and whatever, it's got like the rows, every week, right? Whatever's on the bottom row, whatever days those are, I dedicate to some kind of fast. And that, if it's 1 to 2 and maybe 3 days, I'll try to do a food fast. But if it's more than that, I typically dedicate it to fasting from electronics and working on my digital minimalism. Um, and sometimes it'll be like sugar or like coffee. I think Christians are very addicted to coffee and don't like to admit that. And I am guilty of this, first off. But yeah, I just go at the end of the calendar and mark those days as okay, I'm gonna fast this time of the month. Usually like 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, whatever it may be. And then I just dedicate it to like fasting from electronics. And one thing I realized is it, especially like I was expecting fasting from food to be difficult, but I did not realize how difficult it was to fast from electronics. And it was kind of humbling how weak I was because like it seems like you're not addicted to it, but then you actually try to get away from it and you realize you are addicted to it. So anyways, this is just how I um, try to implement fasting in my life, and I found that it is very beneficial. So I encourage you to try it out and let me know how it works. All right, thanks for watching.